The prime thing is you have to win.
Ill intent, violence, physicality, pain. Enough is enough.
All right, welcome back to the Just Win podcast. The Raiders officially have won 2 in a row. They beat the New Orleans Saints today, 25-10. They improved to 4-12. That's Tashan Reed. I'm Ted Wynn. That's Vic Tafer. Vic made the trip out to New Orleans. What's the locker room like? Guys celebrating. Mark Davis happy?
Yeah, everyone's really happy. A lot of hugs, a lot of high fives, a lot of yelling. Antonio Pierce talked to the team afterwards, and so did Amir Abdullah, and Mark Davis was in the background cheering and smiling, and he wants to win. Fans don't want to hear it. I know they've fallen down to 8th or 9th in the draft board, but the players don't care about that kind of stuff. They want to win games. Mark Davis wants to win. And obviously, Antonio wants to win. He's kind of coaching for his job right now. So I think, it was a happy scene. No one really cares that the Saints aren't very good, that they're injured. It just kind of a win's a win. Now they have 2 in a row.
Yeah, according to Tankathon, they're 8th right now, so they lost a couple spots in the draft order. So for fans that care about that, I'm sure they're not too happy. But as we've been talking about, anybody that's really involved with the franchise doesn't really want them to lose. Whether it's the players, the young guys are trying to show why they deserve to be part of the rotation next year. The older guys set to test free agency are trying to get paid. Obviously, the coaches are coaching for their job, and even at the executive level, while I'm sure, Tom Telesco would like to have a better pick, he's not rooting for the team to lose, and same goes for Mark Davis. And so it's kind of funny seeing the reaction from people that are like confused that they're happy that they're winning. But, it wasn't like they were going against the juggernaut today. I mean, the New Orleans Saints, they didn't have Derek Carr, so that took a lot of steam out of this one. And they also didn't have Alvin Kamara or Chris Olave and a few other players. So, but, a win's a win. When you're coming out of a 10-game losing streak, back-to-back wins feels good no matter who you beat. So the fact that it's the Jaguars and the Saints isn't going to take any wind out of the Raiders' sails.
Yeah, but before we get too much into the game, let's talk a little bit about tanking. Like, teams, as far as the players, coaches, organizations, they shouldn't be tanking. Like, they should not have their view on losing games because guys are coaching for their jobs, like you said. Guys are trying to put their best film on the field, whether it's for the Raiders next year or for a different team next year. But as a fan, it's understandable that you would be rooting for a loss because that in order to put yourself in best position to win in the future, a loss in a lost season is more valuable. So I don't blame the fans at all for wanting a loss and understanding that this is for the greater good. But at the same time, don't be confused that the team is trying to win. It's just the nature of what they do and what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, like the Raiders also are very young, at this point, at least after all the injuries, very young roster. A bunch of young guys are playing. So, pie in the sky. You want these guys to develop winning habits. You want them to have a game plan, follow it through, kind of execute your game plan and win games. And ideally, that kind of rhythm feeds itself, get into a pattern, a winning pattern. So I know it's hard to see that now when you're freaking 4-12, but that's what the big picture it looks like if you're a player or a coach want to get these guys in a winning habit. And again, there's a big debate that carries over from year to year, but you just want to give it a shot and see that you have some good habits going forward.
Yeah, I don't think it does carry over from year to year because teams are so different roster-wise from year to year. And AP might not even be the coach next year, so we'll see. But at the same time, like, you're never going to tell your players to play worse or to the sneakiest tank move they could have made was to just IR AOC, Aidan O'Connell, because he's playing really well. He's not playing really well, but he's playing good enough to win these games. And we'll talk a little bit about Aiden in a bit, but let's first talk about the good news is a lot of the Raiders' young players are performing. They're playing well, and that bodes well in their development and seeing them play in the future. Obviously, the highlight is Brock Bowers, who has almost every rookie receiving record and broke Mike Ditka's tight end record. That how long has that tight end record stood for?
60 years.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like you beat a 60-year record. What other records did Brock Bowers?
I'll tell you a funny side note. Brock had no idea that Ditka actually played football. He just knew him as a coach and a TV personality, so he was surprised to learn that Ditka actually was a pretty good player in his day.
Yeah, so his 3 records was the Raiders single season catch record, which Darren Waller set a couple years ago when he went to the playoffs. Set the NFL single season rookie catch record, which Puka Nacua set last year, and then the Mike Ditka record that we just referenced. So he broke 3 records today. As we've all talked about all year, he's having a historic season and probably the Raiders' best draft pick since Max Crosby. And, he's going to be a building block for them moving forward. He's still only 22 years old. He just turned 22 earlier this month. And so you could only imagine he's going to get better from here. And, he's not playing in ideal circumstances. The quarterback play has been whatever. He's had 3 different starting quarterbacks this year, 2 different offensive play callers. The offensive line's been shuffling. The run game's been bad, but he's still had one of the greatest rookie seasons we've ever seen, regardless of position. So you can imagine, if things get a little bit more stable on the offensive side of the ball, what he could accomplish moving forward.
An important thing is he broke all those records before the extra 17th game. I mean, it's like if you break these records in the 17th game, it's like, all right, you got an extra game. But like he broke these records in time, so good for him. Yeah. Also, I mean, he's just like you can't cover him in man coverage. The Saints play so much man, and like you just can't cover him. And then in zone, he just flies past these underneath zones. You see him doing these crossers, and when they try to blitz, he's able to find an open hole. And it looks, I love when receivers catch the ball and then they could take off right away and get those yak yardage. And that's what he did today.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the young guys, outside of Bowers. I mean, I think, Jackson Powers Johnson and DJ Glaze were pretty solid today on the offensive line. Trey Tucker kind of had that broken play touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, I guess they don't really have like young up and coming guys, but like some youngerish guys, whether it's Trayvon Merrick, who's, just finishing up his rookie deal, or, Calebon Chason, Isaiah Polamau had a couple of big hits today. So they have, some guys flashing on both sides of the ball. It doesn't mean this roster is loaded or anything like that, but they do have, a nice little collection of young players that they could keep around moving forward to help build this roster up.
Yeah. One young player that stood out was Tyree Wilson. He had his arguably his best game as a pro. He had his highest percentage of pressures, 27.6%. He's had in his career. He had 8 pressures, 2 quarterback hits, 6 hurries, and half sack today. So they have some really, and he did it on outside too. He wasn't just inside pressuring. He did it on the edge. Obviously the Saints don't have very good tackles, but it's good to see him have success and continue to develop. Like I said, he's still just playing with pure like raw ability right now. He's still doesn't have consistent technique. So it's good to see him be able to do these things without that technique being really ingrained in him. So hopefully with an off season where he can really start to refine these things, he can have a real breakout year next year. And like you mentioned, JPJ was extremely physical in the run. I mean, he was playing left guard today. I don't think it matters where you put him. He's just a physical guy that just moves people out the way. He had one play in the first quarter where he tossed the defensive tackle into the tight end and had him fall over. And the Raiders had their best running, or their most efficient running game of the season. Again, the Saints are one of the worst run defenses in the league. And real quick, Trey Tucker, he had his best overall game, I thought, of his career last week against the Jaguars. But I wanted to see how he would perform against a team that plays a lot better and tighter man coverage, and the Saints are that team. And he didn't play that well. I mean, he did have that 1 touchdown catch, but he had only caught two catches on 8 targets, and I think he had some more opportunities, just couldn't hang on to the ball or couldn't get away from physical coverage. So I think at this point, I'm starting to peg Trey Tucker in as just kind of like this flash guy that could get the occasional big play because of his speed, but I just don't know if he could be a consistent contributor at this point. I don't know if he could get there.
Nice catch in the back of the end zone. I think he's definitely shown some growth in the route running ability. I think I think he's a young guy. Still got, like you said, still got ways to go, but I think he's making progress.
Yeah, I just don't know if he has the physicality to be a real contributor from game to game, but that's just what I see from him now. Let's talk about the defense. The defense played really well today, held the Saints to 1 of 10 on third down. I thought Patrick Graham again had a good game plan, dialed it up on those money downs, and knew when to back off as well too. And one thing we didn't talk about was the report that Patrick Graham declined to sign a extension this year.
That didn't surprise me because I think he wants to be a head coach, so I don't know why. And I think also you want to see what happens with Pierce, so I don't think it's him saying goodbye. It's just him saying, I'm not going to attach myself at this point. I think it was, so that didn't surprise me. But I'm going back to, I thought he made some nice adjustments today at halftime. I thought they looked pretty bad in the last drive of the half where the Saints got an easy 3 points. I was like, that's not good. But they made some adjustments, and they held the Saints scoreless second half. Mentioned to Tyree, I thought Caleb Vaughn played really well. And Robert Spillane was all over the place. I thought Jack Jones had a pick, and it's kind of weird. So one of the weird stats this year is that they're now 3-1 without Max Crosby, which is kind of a bizarre stat, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that those 3 wins were over the Browns, the Jaguars, and the Saints. I don't know how much.
I'm not dogging Max. I'm just saying it's a weird stat. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but no, Spillane was pretty good today. I mean, there's a stat the Raiders tweeted out. He's now one of only 3 players in Raiders history to record 100+ tackles, multiple interceptions, and multiple sacks in a single season, and he's done it in back-to-back years now. And I mean, going back to last season when he was signed, I don't think that many of us knew who he was, and he's been a hell of a signing for him. I mean, both years he's had pretty great seasons, and he's going to be a free agent, as we've talked about. But you'd have to imagine they want to bring him back with as well as he's playing and kind of the tone he sets in the middle of the defense. But I thought he really led the way today.
Yeah, I think you got to bring back Spillane. I mean, he's just, and I don't think he's going to be that expensive as far as a culture guy, leader of the defense. It's hard finding linebackers now, and I think linebackers are pretty important with the kind of the importance of the run game coming back. So I think, yeah, you got to bring back Spillane. Let's talk about Amir Abdullah. Had his first 100 rushing game of his 10-year career today. Played really well. Had some catches as well. I thought the offensive line really did a good job of opening up some holes for him, but he took advantage, made some guys miss on a second level. What do you guys think about Abdullah today?
It's a spark plug, I think. It's kind of cool. It's his first ever 100-yard rushing day. 10-year veteran. It's pretty amazing, and I just think O-line and he kind of were vibing pretty early on, kind of reading each other pretty well, and made some nice reads and bounced off some double teams. And you wonder, I mean, he said a while back he was their best running back, and everyone kind of rolled their eyes, but he kind of is. So I wonder where they would have been if he'd been playing more early in the year. But yeah, it's definitely a tip of the cap to him for kind of hanging in there and showing what he's worth.
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty great today. I mean, not just running the ball, but he had a few catches in the pass game as well. Almost had a touchdown, but he got marked out at the 1-yard line, and I think they ended up getting sacked or something, so they wasted it. They robbed him of a couple touchdowns today that would have made it even better. But pretty good performance from him, and I think I mean, big picture, I think it just means he should be part of the rotation next year. And he's going to be a guy that's testing free agency as well, I believe. So. Even if it's as a backup or a third down back, I think he's earned a spot moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I wish Sincere McCormick was healthy, and I would have loved to see him run behind some of the holes that the offensive line made today. But let's move on and let's talk about the Raiders' draft position. I think a lot of our listeners want to know what's up with the draft position. Tashan, remember I asked you, do you think your boy Drew Lock could get it done? And you said absolutely not. And he had a historically good game today. He had one of the top games as far as EPA per dropback that we've seen in the last 10 years. He lit the Colts up for 42 points and got the win for the Giants. And what do you think about that, man?
That's the thing about Tigers, man. You back a Tiger into a corner, you never know what's going to happen. So it's crazy. He had a sensational performance today. It was tough for some Raiders fans that were rooting for the draft positioning because the Giants finally won a game. They had a window there to move up in the draft order, and nope, another win. So the Raiders, as we said earlier, they're at 8 now. There are a few teams with 4 wins, but the issue is the Raiders have beat a few of them. The Jaguars and the Panthers, they beat them. Ironically, the Jets are one of the teams that pick ahead of the Raiders now, which shouts to Devontae Adams, I guess. But yeah. I mean, at this point, their chances of getting a top pick are pretty much dead if they're not already eliminated from getting that. But I guess it's not outside of the realm of possibilities that they could move up again to like 3 or 4. But it seems, in all likelihood, they're going to be picking towards that back end of the top 10. And so that most likely is going to take them out of range of getting Shadur Sanders or Cam Ward, who are considered to be the top quarterbacks, of course.
Yeah. And yeah, Shadur did not have a good performance yesterday. I wonder how much that weighs into evaluators' eyes to have that last performance against a ranked team just be kind of a really terrible one. We've seen like last performance really elevate a draft prospect, but yeah, he did not play well yesterday.
He wore his Giants cleats yesterday in that game. He wore his Giants red and blue cleats. Did not play well. The Giants said, "Screw this guy. We're going to win because this guy ain't our guy." So it was kind of a cause and effect there. But I think the Jags now have the first pick, right, overall, as of right now?
No, I think it's the Patriots.
Oh, it's the Patriots. Sure. All right, so you still can trade up. I mean, both those teams have quarterbacks. So
Jags won today.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. My bad. So the Patriots, yeah. So you still can trade up if you have a need or a desire to get that guy. I think it's still a possibility.
Yeah, just the issue is like there's teams like the Browns, the Titans, the Giants ahead of you that have a better first round pick that could also just trade up. So I don't know. I guess it's not impossible, but it's starting to feel pretty unlikely the Raiders will be able to get one of those guys feasibly.
Yeah, it also stinks that they're probably out of the range for Travis Hunter too. I mean, like if you're not picking quarterback, having Travis Hunter as a backup plan, it would not be too shabby. But we'll see what happens. Still one more week to go, so we'll see where the Raiders ending up. And like you said, there's still a trade up option. It'll be costly, but it's still a possibility. So let's get into fan questions. All right, AOC 12. I don't know if that's really Aidan O'Connell, but he paid $2 to ask. No, he paid $2 to declare I went easy on them. So Aidan O'Connell or parody Aidan O'Connell didn't want to go too hard on the Saints. He didn't want to embarrass Derek Carr too bad. And he made some plays. He's continuing to make these out of structure plays. What's his nickname that Jacoby Myers gave him? Aidan Vick or Aidan Vick?
I thought it was calm today in the pocket. He made some good decisions and some nice throws. I mean, he missed some throws, but for the most part, he was pretty accurate and clearly the best quarterback in the field today. And I'm sure Raider fans who wanted the loss were kind of worried about that, and it came true. So I think he's definitely an NFL quarterback. I don't know if he's an NFL starting quarterback, but yeah, he's won some games now. I think the players believe in him. I think they've also, like Amir Abdullah and I were talking about him, and people forget. People forget he's in his second year. Kind of, he's still a learning curve. We're still getting better. Still to give him a chance to grow and to be a player that he can be.
Yeah, he played pretty well today. The Saints, the best part about their team is their pass defense. They're actually top 10-ish in EPA per pass attempts. So it's not pass defense that you could just roll over, and I thought he played pretty well. So if that's really you, AOC, good job. Dick Everly, that's his real name, by the way, asks, "Hey guys, question for today. Let's say we don't get 2 top quarterback. Sam Darnold stays in Minnesota or goes Nash. Then what? LOL. This feels like over 30% chance."
I agree. I think there's a good chance that those 3 guys don't happen for the Raiders. So what happens next? I think you look at trade options, I guess, for other guys. Or you don't want Kirk Cousins, so he'll be available. He'll be dirt cheap also. So that'd be. Some teams are going to jump at Cousins because he's going to be like Russell was this year. But if you're the Raiders, you don't want to go down that path, I don't believe. So I think you got to look at other options, and we'll see who's available. But and I think after those top 2 quarterbacks, whoever you're going to draft, I'm not sure you can plug in right away. So it's more of a long-term guy. So yeah, I think it's going to be through trade or through free agency to get your starter for next season.
Yeah, man, it's tough, man.
The Sam Darnold situation is interesting because, like, he's playing really well right now. I thought he played a great game against the Packers, who the Vikings beat today. And if he performs well in the playoffs, but what do you do when you have a first round pick in the wings? Darnold doesn't have a contract next year. Like, if you're Darnold, obviously the Vikings is a great situation for him with the weapons they have, the play caller, the defense. But you also know that your time there would be limited if JJ McCarthy's not on the roster. So, do you just want to leave?
Well, the thing we're hearing now, I think it's more and more likely is to give him the franchise tag. So you can keep him for a year, he gets his money, and you kind of give McCarthy time to kind of get back into it. So I think that seems to be, as of right now, the logical conclusion of what happens for him next year. But you never know. But I think that solves the Vikings' problems and also gives Arnold a nice payday and kind of gives next team the next year.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty obvious franchise situation to me. But I guess he could refuse to play on it or something of that nature. But I don't know. I don't know enough about the Vikings' inner workings to know if Darnold will react that way or not. But if he's fine with it and they're fine with it, I don't see why they wouldn't franchise tag him.
Yeah. So what other veteran quarterbacks would you guys look? Having, I guess, Aidan O'Connell is not that bad if he's playing, at his level. They can improve the weapons around him. As far as the options available, is Aiden that bad of an option?
I'm not saying he's bad, but you definitely got to add somebody else.
But in this situation where you're missing out on the top 2 quarterbacks, Darnold is not available. Who else is there?
Yeah, I know we talked about it a little bit last week when it comes to the other quarterbacks. It's not super attractive, but there could be some guys there in the second round, more developmental guys that they could add just to add some quarterback competition to the room and to push Aiden a little bit. Maybe somebody with some more upside and more athletic traits that he lacks that have kind of held him back. But I definitely think Aiden at least takes the pressure away from them to just sign a guy in free agency just to sign a guy. Because another guy that's probably going to get re-signed is Russell Wilson with the Steelers, the way that he's playing right now. And beyond him and Darnold is basically just a bunch of guys that may be a little bit better than AOC, but not that much better than AOC, maybe a Jameis Winston type of guy or something like that. But it's not a clear upgrade, so you might as well.
Cleveland, bro.
Yeah, but Jameis Winston, in the games that he's played this season, I think he's been better than Aidan O'Connell personally. But I think, if it's that kind of guy, you might as well just look towards the draft and trying to add a guy, like I said, maybe somewhere in the second round, or if you want to trade up at the back end of the first round or something like that. But I don't know. I just don't think you can run it back with the exact same quarterback room. I think that would be a mistake.
Maybe Justin Fields.
That's a name right there. We talked about trading for a guy like Hendon Hooker maybe, or I don't know if the Jags, if they clean house comes to the front office, do they really not just get a quarterback, and can they trade Trevor Lawrence? That's a guy I think might be an option. So there are always guys that come up between now and then, but it's really not as sexy or as exciting as the guys Raider fans were thinking about the last few months.
All right, next question from Jess Aguirre. Someone please explain to me, like I'm 5 years old, why does winning meaningless games matter in evaluating AP?
Because I think the argument is that, there's a list of legitimate excuses that Pierce has this year. They lost 5 defensive starters, his best offensive player, begged out week 4. So they've had some obstacles to overcome this year. The team hasn't stopped playing hard. I mean, I guess that's what the players say. I think that's true. They've been in most games this year. Now they've won 2 in a row. So Pierce mentioned the culture, and he has a culture kind of in place. And if you believe that, and you believe they have kept playing hard, and you kind of turned the corner now, and these young guys are getting better, then these wins can mean something to you or to Mark Davis in this scenario.
Yeah, I think the culture thing is his biggest argument for staying in place. Like, we're in the locker room enough. I think we can confidently say, like, the player's still back. Antonio Pierce on a macro level, you can't speak for every single guy, but I would say he still has the back end of the locker room. They're still giving full effort. But and an injury excuse I would say is valid. And then quarterback situation, like injuries or not, like they just weren't going to have good quarterback play this year. So I think there's a lot of things you could point to say that this is like a 4 or 5 win team. I mean, I think most places where they project to win was over under 6 wins or something like that. So it's not like they're falling like that far below expectations. And so it's more so like what it looks like than what the final result is. And so if you're AP and you're trying to put together your sales pitch to come back next year, you say, I made a mistake at offensive coordinator, but if I hire a better one, if we get a better quarterback, we use our resources to build up the roster. We don't have 15 players on IR. Maybe we can take a step forward next year. And so I think it comes down to whether you value that angle more, or do you lean on the side of, well, he's 9-16. That's the same record that Josh McDaniels had when he got fired. We've talked about his in-game management issues, his game management issues. He struggled to hire a staff in his first offseason. That's the only way he fired 3 assistants 9 games into the season. It's kind of had some, I don't really know what to categorize it as, but sort of these off-the-field moments, whether it was the business decision comments or whatnot, where it kind of brought in unnecessary attention in a negative way. So you have plenty of reasons you could knock him, but there's also reasons why he could, convince you to make it to year 2. And so either way you sit on the fence. I think, what we can all agree on is the decision for Mark Davis isn't as clear as it seemed to be just a few weeks ago, even, before this 2-game winning streak. I'm not saying that beating the Jaguars and the Saints, 2 bad teams with backup quarterbacks is like this big thing, but it's a lot better than if they lost, 12 straight or 13 straight to lose the season. And so I think next week is really, really big. Not to say that finishing with 5 wins makes it a great season or whatnot, but if you're able to knock off a Chargers team that's going to be playing for playoff seed, and I think that really goes a long way to him keeping his job. And even if you're competitive, like if you lose on a last-second field goal or something, I think the thing you just can't have happen next week is if you just get your ass kicked by the Chargers at home in the season finale. I think if that happens, then it'll probably be the final nail in the coffin for AP's tenure.
Yeah, I think putting too much stock into these last 2 games, and I don't know how Mark Davis is viewing it. I know seeing him ecstatic after these 2 wins makes me think that he does put some weight into these games. But to me, I think it's a fallacy to put too much stock into these late wins against 2 bad teams with their back quarterbacks playing. Go ahead, Vic.
I guess the argument is he's not viewing it just as these 2 games. He's viewing it as like a 12 games thing where they had this horrendous, stretch of 10 losses in a row, and yet they were never blown out. I mean, that's not a big reward for that, but they played tough in those games, and now they've kind of come through it without Max Crosby and won 2 games in a row. So now, they clearly don't have a roster that's got a lot of talent, I would say, at this point. I mean, they're kind of getting by and beating teams that are inferior. But I think you look at it, if Mark Davis is putting a lot of stock in these wins, it's because of what they overcome to get to this point and kind of turn this thing around. And, a year ago, he was positive that Antonio Pierce was the guy. There was no doubt about it. Fans were all positive. So I think he's trying to make sure he didn't make the wrong decision, and you don't want to, analyze things too harshly and try to be fair. So I think he's giving it a fair assessment in his mind, but waiting to see how the whole thing turns out. And a part of that is how you get through the storm, kind of pick it up from there. So I think he's happy. That's why he's so happy the last few weeks, is because the players are happy, and he cares about the players, and he wants to see this thing at some point turn around.
Yeah, I mean, the key three things are: one is a team playing hard, and the team is playing hard. Two, what is your plan for game management? Like,
I mean, he can replace that staff. Man, I know that's the big thing that everyone. But just like talking about offensive coordinator, he made a bad hire there. You can replace your game management guy and tell Mark Davis, okay, these are the mistakes you made over the year. This is where I'll get better. So I mean, you can. It's all. Just like you're going to change your staffing on offense, you can also change it in game management as well.
Yeah, but still, like, what is your plan? Are you going to change the game management guy? Who are you going to hire? Is there going to be a better process as far as how you're going to communicate and the decisions you're going to make at the end of games? I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, there was a report coming out that like game management is like one of the top issues that owners are looking at when hiring a new coach now. Like, games are as close as ever, so the margin of error is so small. These decisions are so big now. And AP is literally the worst game management guy in the league now that Eberflus is fired.
It's a big deal to Mark. But I'm not diminishing the game management thing. I'm just saying that this list of things that you can work on and improve on. I'm sure that's another thing you can put down as, okay, growing pains, or like we had the wrong guy. I think Mark's more concerned about having this goes in the right trajectory. Like far as in the culture that Pierce talks about, and the players still being in, working hard every day, and so that's why I think he's happy his last few weeks, because he has seen at least some tangible proof that guys are still vested and guys still believe in Pierce.
I mean, but the thing to me is, like, you got to have some sort of plan moving forward next year, and then you have to have a plan for who you're going to hire, whether you're going to keep the Turners or do you have another offensive coordinator in mind. So I'm just saying those are the three things. One, the team's playing hard. Two, you got to have a plan for games management next year, because it can't be the same thing. And three, who are you going to hire as your offensive coordinator, who the plan for who you're going to interview, and all those things. And hey, the Raiders scored today at the end of the half. So I guess that's a little progress. All right, next question. What's for dinner, Vic?
Good question, man.
You're in New Orleans, man. You got to have a good plan for dinner.
Yeah, well, I don't. I'm pretty good though. I'm pretty hungry. I went to Emerald's last night, some gumbo. I might go to I'll look around, see what's open. But there's a couple places. I'm gonna get some jambalaya for sure. But yeah, I love New Orleans, so I'll definitely be out somewhere.
Go to Drago's, get you some gumbo and some charbroiled oysters.
My favorite place is called Giacomo's, but it's a little far away. But I may go out there. That's the best, I think, Cajun food in town. But it's not that close to where I'm at. But I may jump a little lift, so we'll see. But Giacomo's is the place to go. But I may go somewhere closer. We'll see.
You get to talk to Derek at all today?
You know what's funny? I did not see him till when I was walking back from the locker room to the press box. Someone told me he was on the field. So I looked out. I saw him. He was playing catch with some kids. I was like, man, I have to go right, but otherwise I'll go give him a hard time. But I did not see Derek, but I saw him on the field, but didn't talk to him. So sorry, guys.
Oh man, wow.
Writing the podcast come first, man. Yeah, giving Derek Carr a hard time comes third.
All right. Next question. If they ended up 8-10, wait, 8-10, 7-10, what?
What?
Wait, what?
No, there's some up the draft.
Oh, 8-10 draft.
Ah, come on,
yeah. How many? You got a couple of drinks or something, guys?
Come on, Ted.
Would Gianti be in play? Could they sign Higgins and draft T Higgins and draft a quarterback rounds 2 and 3 to compete with AOC? I just think with the position the team, I love Gianti, but I think with the position the team is in now, a running back's a luxury, man. I just don't know if you could justify taking a running back with the first pick when you have so many other needs.
Man, you can't take no fucking running back, man. They got too many holes on this roster to go running back. In my opinion, I think we talked about the quarterback stuff. There's a lot of good players in this draft at other positions. They might be out of range for Travis Hunter or maybe even Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan, and you got Mason Graham, the defensive tackle from Michigan, McMillan, a receiver from Arizona. Like there's a few guys in that range, that top 8 to 10 range, that would be good gets at pretty premium positions. So I just think I I'm sure I think Gente's gonna be a great player. I just don't think this team is a running back away from being good all of a sudden.
Plus, they're proving again you can plug guys in. You can plug running backs in and be fine. And they plugged in McCormick, they plugged in Amir Abdullah. You don't have to get a top running back. I mean, I love top running backs, but I mean, like you mentioned, getting from step A to step B to step C, you're okay with plugging guys in, usually, and you get results. So I think you don't have a huge need for a star running back right now.
Yeah, I like the idea of adding Graham to this defensive line, the defensive tackle from Michigan, who is a freak of nature. I mean, you get him together with Wilkins, Crosby, and then maybe you get Kuntz back and Tyree improving the way he's improving. I just think when you really turn that defensive line into a strength, it could quickly help this team. So, again, haven't looked super into the draft yet, but I like the idea of doing that. Okay. Last question from Tommy Lovell. Other than Bowers, who are offensive players that can be penciled in as starters next season? I like this question.
I think you can go Jackson Powers Johnson, Colton Miller, Jacoby Myers. I think I'd probably stop there. Trey Tucker, probably a slot receiver, probably. But
Dylan Parham's fine. I mean, I think he's not great, but I think he's been solid.
What's Parham's contract situation like? Is he
his rookie deal, right? Yeah, still his rookie deal. Then I don't know what to do with the right tackle, but I mean, the kid's been okay there. So I mean, ideally he has a good offseason, gets a little stronger, and but there's definitely some young guys you can play around with up front. I think there. Jacorian Bennett, that's obviously a young guy.
You're saying offense.
Offense, yeah. So those guys are a good start. I know we had a little debate about Trey Tucker earlier, but Trey Tucker, I think, is still a piece, not a main piece. He's still a piece of the puzzle, if not a big piece.
Yeah, I mean, I would like. I think McCormick would be good as a starting running back. Well, all the players you said, Trey Tucker, I would probably try to drop him down to 4 if I could get enough talent at that receiver position. I think DJ Glaze, a big game for him will be the last game against the Chargers, where he'll go against Bosa and Khalil Mack. If he has a really good game against those guys, it would make me feel a lot better about possibly penciling him in as a starter next year. Like I mentioned, he's still a good draft pick because he's at least a very good swing tackle. And whether he's starting tackle remains to be seen, even though I think from what I saw from the TV copy, I thought he played really well. The offensive line in general gave Aidan O'Connell a lot of time today. So one encouraging thing is just how much the offensive line has improved throughout the season. They started the season as one of the worst units in the league, and I think they're at least league average, maybe a little better than league average now that they've had some continuity. So that's an encouraging thing to look at.
Andre James came back in and was 2 wins since 2 starts.
So you're saying Andre James is the catalyst for 2 wins?
Yeah, I'm just saying it's nice to see a veteran guy who was counted out to kind of come back and be able to contribute. He's paid his dues, and he thought today he played pretty well. So it's a guy a lot of guys give a hard time to, but tip the cap to Andre James.
Bench Max Crosby and start Andre James, and the season turns around.
That's it, man. That's all you gotta do.
He's more valuable than Max Crosby, apparently.
Yeah.
It's not good to joke around too much. You get cussed out.
All right. Well, that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you for joining us. It's been a tough season. All you guys joining us live. Thanks for joining. We will be back on Friday. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Leave a comment on Apple, Spotify, wherever you guys get your podcasts. We're going to let Vic go out into the New Orleans night and get a dinner and a crazy night before he comes home.
Yeah, last night I couldn't because it was thunderstorms. So tonight the weather's nice, so I'm going to get in some trouble.
All right, so maybe we won't see Vic on Friday, depending on how things go.
Not that much trouble. A little bit of trouble. Not a lot of trouble. A little bit.
Oh, wait, we got one more question. $2 from Con Bile Yacker. Thoughts on Vrabel?
Are we that easy? Like people just throw money at us and we drop what we're doing and say, hey.
Yeah.
Thoughts on
That's-
Vrabel? Who's going to be the coach of the New England Patriots? That's my thought on Mike Vrabel.
Ooh. No, I think they're going to bring back Gerard Mayo. In my opinion, I think they'll bring him
Oh,
back.
I don't think so.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But I think if just speaking on him as a candidate, I think he's probably the top head coaching candidate on the market. I know Ben Johnson's getting a lot of buzz, but Mike Vrabel to me was a really good head coach throughout his 6-year tenure with the Titans. He showed he knows how to put together a staff. So even though he is an offensive-minded head coach, like he had the ability to hire good offensive coordinators throughout his tenure there at the Titans and put together some pretty good offenses with, Derrick Henry's an all-time great, but Ryan Tannehill was a starting quarterback, and he had him having some of the most efficient seasons we've ever seen. So, I think he'd be my top choice if they do end up making a coaching change. But gotta have some competition to get him. If the Patriots do make a change, I mean, he has so many ties there, being a former Patriot, and there's a number of other teams that'll be looking for head coaches. So, they'd have to open up the checkbook to get him. That's for sure. So.
Yeah. Vrabel to me is like the model CEO coach. Like he's very good at game management. He does some really clever things with clock management. And I mean, we don't even have to get into all that, but he's a really forward thinker in that regard. He's put together good staffs, and he also provides an edge defensively. So, I mean, he's a really good head coach candidate, and it probably does help to have some Tom Brady connection, but we'll see what happens. All right. Unless somebody throws in $100, we're ending this podcast right now. I'm going to give you 3 seconds, $100. 3, 2, 1. All right, nothing.
We're so easy.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll talk to you on Friday.
All right, y'all.
All right.
Peace.
Hasta la vista.